You are listening to the Brain Software Podcast, episode 112. Today, we discuss cool things about the unconscious mind and a lot more. Stay tuned. Hello, fellow hypnotic hooligans. I'm Chris Thompson, and as usual, we have a near titanium podcast, forged in the fires of Crom, and with certain glanation, we expedite the sort of changes in mind and mental state that you have come to expect. But first, a question. Whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know? These are days of effing victory! So grab a big mug of Java and cozy up to the fire, because the hypnotic storm has arrived. So welcome to the inner thigh of hypnotic stenosis. A man who's going to have surgery, but not at his own hands this time.
It's killing me.
A man who's holding it super lightweight according to UFC rules.
Bring it on.
And the reigning king of OMAD, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, great to be back, even though my hand is killing me. As you know, I've seen my own doctor, and I've seen the hand surgeon, who's a plastic surgeon, the only one who can fix this stenosing tenosynovitis, which I have in my hand.
Yes.
But we're ready to go. Tell me, what's our banter and promotion for today?
Our banter and promotion period. We're going to be really quick. So we have to admit, though, self-confessed here. We screwed up the recording of this podcast last time.
Yes, you did.
I think we were going to be talking about how we were attending the Canadian Hypnosis Conference in Toronto.
Right.
That is now over. It was an amazing 4-hour pre-conference class that we delivered to a great sold-out crowd.
We did.
And you delivered the keynote there. It was tremendously fun.
Thank you.
A lot of people that got to meet us had never seen us before, which was really cool. And what else is going on? Well, by the time this is released, we will have finally published the full video series that James Tripp was presenting in Toronto. We had it edited down to about 11 hours of amazing video, put all the notes together, so that's great. And we are really coming up on the November sold-out Architecture of Hypnosis. I highly encourage you to go over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events. Check out what's going on, because you'll want to sign up for the May class 2019 before we raise the price January 1st.
And where are we with the May class, Chris? We got a number of bookings already.
It's about half sold out now.
Unbelievable. And we're still 7 months away.
Yes. So, and then of course we have Wizard School. We have Wizard URL yet, but it will be posted on the events page when it is ready. We are now down to the point where the contract's signed. We've paid for the room. It's going to be April 27th and 28th in Toronto. Email us if you're interested in being on the notification list. If you didn't get my email that I already sent out with a special link to click to tag your account, if you did that, you're already on the waiting list or notification list. But if you are not on our email list and you would like to get notified, Wizard School is going to be a 2-day class, April 27th, 28th in Toronto. Mike, what kind of things are you going to be teaching?
This is the kind of stuff I've wanted to teach that goes beyond the 5-day Architecture of Hypnosis. So anybody who's certified or trained anywhere in hypnosis, I'll even work with you if you're trained in NLP instead. We're going to show people how to get to initial sensitizing events, the best ways of using ideomotor signals. We'll do in-depth ego state work for balancing personality. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fun. So stay tuned on that. And I don't think there's anything else I really want to spend time on other than mentioning, let's do this. Let's do this one thing. Let's say, folks, make sure that you are planning to attend HypnoThoughts Live in August. Plan in advance. You can get cheap flights when you book early. The hotel that it's hosted at in August in Las Vegas is called The Orleans. It's very, very cost effective.
It's off the strip. We have a blast. We never even leave the hotel. They get a great swimming pool and alligator bar.
At some point, actually, I got to get on this, but at some point, there will be a special link you can get from our website that will let you come to our pre-conference class and probably get a discount on the tickets again. If you can't wait for that, just go to htlive.net, get your tickets, because the longer you wait, the higher the price goes. Richard Clark raises the price every few months leading up to the event, and he loves it, raising the price and then having people complain about it later. Well, he told you he was going to raise it. It's an amazing conference. We're going there for the 5th year in a row, and guess who's the keynote speaker this year?
I don't know, Chris.
This better be public by the time we release this. We prematurely were about to release it on our last podcast, and then we realized Scott Sandlin had not made the public announcement.
No.
So we actually edited it out. This time we're not editing it out.
Something out.
It's up to him to make the announcement now on time. Hopefully he will. Mike is the keynote speaker at Hypnothoughts Live. It's
1,000
awesome.
hypnotists, and yours truly gets to do the keynote. It's a tremendous honor doing it right on the heels of the Canadian Hypnosis Conference, and then Hypnothoughts is the biggie.
Yes, it is.
Now,
all right.
Chris, we have a think tank word for today, and the one that was randomly generated by twisting the dials was decomposition. What does that say to you?
Oh, it says so much, but decomposition, I think about breaking something down to its component parts. So I remember when I was in high school, I loved chemistry. And I remember in grade 11 chemistry, we started learning about stoichiometry and, all these things about molecular formulas, and everything is really just made up of atoms.
Yeah.
Atoms make molecules. Molecules become, let's say, cells in the case of biology. And those cells become systems. And
so how does decomposition fit with that? It's the other direction, right?
Yeah, you decompose something. You can think about what are the component parts required to make something happen. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you have a bunch of sheet metal and some tools that you can build an aircraft.
Right. And it was going to be a plane.
At least, how did you know that?
I don't know. I was going to say Boeing 747.
Yeah. Or Elon Musk Falcon 9 rocket or something. But at least you have the materials necessary. Then you need, of course, skill and all these other things. But when you decompose something into its component skills or its component parts, I think it just gives you a fundamentally nice way to look at problems.
Well, that's interesting because you've approached this from the point of view of a science geek.
Yes.
I'm looking at this in terms of a body decomposing.
Oh, I bet you are.
From the forensic side.
Yeah.
And the body decomposing, I'm thinking of something returning back to its chemical elements as it rots and decomposes. And to me, that says...
Like entropy.
Yeah. And to me, that says the stuff in our lives that we don't want to keep digging up, just let it die, let it go.
Let it rot away.
Old relationships and that. In fact, Freddie Jacquin in his book, Hypnotherapy, has an amazing protocol called The Girl on the Train. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't gotten that far in it. I have to admit.
Fantastic.
I bought his book, and I want to highly recommend anything Freddie Jacquin does here because I started listening.
Anthony Jacquin.
Yeah, Anthony as well. Anthony, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. I had a nice Skype meeting with him last week too. So Freddie has his book out on Audible for those of you like me who like audiobooks, and then the paperback version of the one you had.
Correct.
On the plane, even on the way to Hypnothoughts. Freddie Jacquin's book's phenomenal.
Yeah, really good. This Girl on the Train thing, you got to check this out. And it's about old relationships and letting go of them. And I think we have to do that. Sometimes we want to hang on to things because there were good memories and stuff. But if something's become toxic, just let it go.
Hey, there's something I wanted to come back to in the intro where I called you the reigning king of OMAD.
Thanks, buddy.
What is OMAD? For those of you listening who don't know what it is, Mike's going to tell you.
OMAD is 1 meal a day, OMAD, and it's a form of intermittent fasting where you fast 23 hours a day. So you're burning fat for that time. And you can eat a big meal. In fact, I still eat mostly a keto meal, so under 50 grams of carbs. And it enables me to keep the weight down. I'm so used to it now, I don't even get hungry until supper time.
Yeah, because when we were in Vegas, since we've been speaking about Hypnothoughts so much here, we were there, you were already in amazing form compared to, let's say,
previous years.
The prior year.
Yeah.
But now you're down even more. You're looking fitter than I've ever seen.
Thanks, buddy.
And of course, you've been maintaining the workouts, and so your muscle tone is awesome.
Yeah.
Body fat's dropping away.
And when I get this damn finger repaired, this trigger finger.
Oh, yeah. So what's the surgery that you're going for?
They release the trigger finger. The hand surgeon gets in the knuckle here and opens it. I've had 5 of them done, and this is the 6th.
So basically, your left pinky is in agony right now.
Yeah, I feel like I have a broken hand that's not splinted or put in a cast. I'm just walking around with a broken hand that hurts all the time.
I do have vice grips. I could just snip it off for you.
Oh, man.
All right. Let's go.
Talk about. We got an email, a really interesting one from Darren.
Our friend
Toronto.
Darren, yeah.
And did you want to review
I'm
that?
correcting the notes because it's only one R in Darren.
All right.
And go ahead. And I don't have the email at hand, so do you?
No, I don't.
Do you even remember? Okay, I'm going to give Mike a moment of interlude here to find it, because the hilarious thing is, as I said, we attempted to record this podcast last week, and it was an epic fail. Something failed on my computer. So now we're looking, just scrambling and rushing to find this email.
Well, we can always pause everything and look.
I suppose we could just pause, but it's almost more amusing for me to watch you on your iPad search for this.
But the problem is, Chris, as you know, I don't care enough, so I'm going to lose interest in
what'll happen. Whenever Mike can't find an email, this is what I say to him: check your deleted items. It's become a hilarious anchor.
All right, here it is.
Oh, he's got it. Okay.
Here we go.
And there was a reason why we were bringing up this email. So, okay, go.
All right. Darren said, I wanted to reach out, seek your advice on how to deal with someone with whom I found myself at my wit's end a few podcasts ago, which are amazing as always. Thank you. Mike gave an example of a friend that he and his wife had who was compulsively negative. I believe the example was about parking spaces, how she crapped on the idea of being able to find one at the movie theater and so on. And he said, fire the negative people was what I was saying. And I'm saying, pathologically negative. And he said, but the predicament is he's with someone who he's unable to fire from his life, which is his mother. And he said she's compulsively negative, especially when it comes to money. We aren't financially well off, but she's always using phrases like, I'm broke, I wish I could win some money, or I'm absolutely flat broke. He said, I've tried my best to be positive, and he's tried to use some rapport building without being obvious, and the stuff we've offered to change her state, nothing seems to work. And to be brutally honest, I don't know how many more years of negativity my sanity can take. Any suggestions you have to help my situation? Perhaps another listeners facing the same issue of a toxic person who they aren't able to let go of.
Wow.
That's powerful stuff. When it's family, it is difficult. And unfortunately here, Darren, we are dealing with the whole possibility that your outcome might be down to somebody else changing. Remember, your outcome has to be stated in the positive. There has to be a time frame on it, and it has to be achievable, and it has to be down to you, not down to somebody else. It has to be
something that you can actually control.
Right.
You can't control somebody else's outcome.
No. So the bottom line here is I keep coming back, Chris, in my mind to the John Grinder line. You have to ask yourself, how am I exquisitely maintaining this other person's behavior? In other words, you're in a communication loop with this person all the time, and what you're doing isn't working. So you have to find other exquisite means of communicating that are going to cause a totally different response. So use your creativity here. That's what it's going to take, changing your behavior until hers begins to change.
What is the name of the NLP intervention there? Is it called Theater of the Mind?
Theater of the Mind,
Theater of the Mind. I remember, so when I was doing my NLP practitioner training many, many years ago, Chris Keeler was the primary trainer, and he ran this on me. And he didn't warn me, of course, what it was about, which is the whole point. When you're running this intervention on somebody, you don't tell them, well, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to ask you this. No, it comes as a surprise. So they imagine in their mind themselves on a stage, another version of themselves on a stage with, let's say, the other people in the scene, usually just one person, and it's one person who is doing something that really annoys them. And then the you from the audience walks up and says to the you on stage, what are you doing to exquisitely maintain that behavior? Something like that. Right?
Yeah,
it blew me away.
You're sort of simplifying it, but you are correct. Yeah. And it's, the interval at a theater, everybody's gone out for the intermission, and another play, the lights go up, and it's you in relationship with this other person in a psychodynamic loop.
Yeah.
And you watch the communication go the way it normally does. Then you imagine getting up, going on stage, and coaching the other you to change their behavior and watching how that plays.
At what point does the magic question
coaching
come in, though? Where does the question come in?
It could come in before you go up there, I guess.
Yeah.
But the point is
because that's the big reframe, right?
Yes, it is.
It's huge to say, holy beep.
Yeah.
I'm actually supporting and maintaining this in some way, right? And it could be so in Darren's case, or in anybody's case, really. It could just be the way you seem frustrated, and then the other person maybe is going, oh, I'm not getting the attention I want, or whatever it is. So
it's a wonderful technique. And the point is you are being the director and directing the relationship from the outside and noticing what results you get.
Yeah.
And then seeing things change.
And so think about what your outcome is here too, because one thing, your outcome could be, well, I want to change my mother. okay, maybe you're going to have some success, maybe you won't, in changing the way that you communicate with her, maybe telling stories that have interesting outcomes, maybe made up, but hopefully based at least some part in reality, because I think they're easier stories. And I remember many years ago on this podcast, I actually told a story about my kids fighting, and I had just come back from a jog, and I told a story to the kids that had literally just happened about how I helped a woman get her car unlocked and her puppy was inside.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, this was going back. Anyway, the point being, stories, they can serve as a pattern interrupt by saying something, pattern interrupt, then telling a story. And it might be a story where somebody had some crappy thing going on in their life, but they took control of it and things got better.
Yeah, if then the lawn tree bloomed.
That's our new metaphor for it, right? The lawn tree bloomed. So make up some great situations where good things happen and maybe use pattern interrupts and tell those stories. On the other hand, if your outcome is to simply not immerse yourself in that negativity, just find pattern interrupts, change the topic, change direction, or leave the situation entirely. You don't have to come back to the discussion of, I'm always broke.
Right. And there's another thing here too, Darren. If your mother is Enneagram type 6, negativity is so often hardwired in, you may have to abandon all hope of changing her. You know, we're back to Dante. Abandon all hope, you who enter here. But you got a challenge. Keep us in the loop. The loop. Chris, we got a number of points I want to get through here now.
Yeah, this is actually something we didn't even talk about at the beginning, but we have a bunch of really cool characteristics that we want to go through from
David Snyder,
our friend.
David Snyder's an excellent NLP trainer. We got to know him at HypnoThoughts. We become friends, and he's going to be on a future podcast. He's quite into it, and I think he'd be an excellent guest.
He would.
And as you know, our guests are by invitation only. But I heard this through one of our students, Chris. It was Seth told us this.
Yes.
He said he got it from David Snyder. I contacted David and said, do I have it right? And he said it was almost correct. He gave me a little bit of reworking.
He corrected you.
He said, there are 6 characteristics of response from the unconscious mind. And so let's say you hypnotize someone and you say, your unconscious is going to bring to your awareness the solution to this or whatever it is.
Yes.
Number 1, it always answers first.
So the unconscious mind will always answer before the conscious mind.
You got to listen for that. And remember, because it's gestalt, it's the big picture. Mm-hmm. It has access to all of your resources and all your neural network, whereas your conscious mind is limited, if we take George Miller's model from 1956, to just 7 bits of information plus or minus 2. So the unconscious draws from this wealth of personal experience, beliefs, and so on, the state you're in, and presents first to the conscious mind something. So whatever comes out first, you can pretty well presume it's come from the unconscious mind.
And it makes sense because people will say, well, I just had this gut feel, or their intuition kicked in. That is an unconscious response. It's something that you can't say, I'd like to have a gut feel now.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's not a switch that you can consciously flip. So hence, that's how you'll know it answers first. When we say it, we mean the unconscious mind.
Yes. And number 2, it always answers honestly. And that's a great one to understand, because one of the prime directives of the unconscious mind is to protect your physical body. Because if it can't protect your physical body, it doesn't have anywhere to live. Mm-hmm. And that's why it will yank you off, the road onto a sidewalk if you hear a horn before your conscious mind can possibly think this through. But it's going to answer honestly because its intention for you is good. Its intention for you is positive.
This is a good time to bring up the idea that just because an unconscious mind can answer honestly, it doesn't necessarily mean that the unconscious mind knows the correct answer.
You're so right with that, Chris. Right? We're back to the reticular activating system. Your brain is programmed to answer any question you give it. It may not be the right answer. It may not even make sense, but it will draw from your schema, your base knowledge, and give you the best answer it can.
Exactly.
Which is why your presuppositions, like, why am I so stupid all the time? The question will stilt things in the wrong direction. Well, your parents are stupid. Your friends are stupid. You're not getting accurate answers, but it will answer honestly to the best of its ability. What do you make of number 3?
Okay, number 3 is it speaks very softly. So the unconscious mind is unlikely to shout at you. Mm-hmm. These things let's go back to the first one. It always answers first. Usually, people tend to get this sense that, they've realized something. And it's not this loud thing going on in their minds. It sounds funny to say it this way, but it's not like this big loud bell ringing or voice screaming at them. It's almost like this whisper sense. Something just...
Yeah.
Oh.
An awareness. Yeah. Now, sometimes it will verbalize very clearly, even if it's softly. I remember, Chris, I told you this before in 1993 when I was doing my NLP practitioner training with Georgian Bay NLP. My teacher, Chris Dunkley, who's since passed away. This is pre my Derek Balmer days with my new code training. But we were all doing a specific intervention with each other. And in my case, what we were working on was I was going through a transient period of insomnia that was wrecking my sleep, which was unusual for me. And when the unconscious was asked, why do I have insomnia? It gave a fully verbalized answer immediately. It was, I'm trying to get him to stop drinking so much coffee because he's washing potassium out of his bloodstream, and I don't want him to have a heart attack like his father did. Wow. I mean, just out of nowhere.
And it wasn't a shout. It was just...
No, but it was just
answered first, answered
honestly.
And whether or not that was medically correct, we'll never know.
Right,
but that's what information your unconscious mind had available to it and thought that was the correct answer.
Exactly.
And spoke softly to you.
So, number 4, it always feels like you're making it up.
And that's probably a good example right there, the one you just gave.
Yeah.
It's almost too detailed. And it feels like, oh, come on.
I must be making this up. But
nope.
It's because it can be so strange. You will feel like you're making it up. And we see this with mindscaping too, Chris. You know, what's in front of you? What's directly in front of you? Oh, it's a building. And with one woman, it said trust on top of the building.
Yeah.
It just comes out of nowhere.
But somehow it matters and you run with it.
Yes. So what about number 5?
Okay, number 5 is you will always have an urge to edit whatever just came up.
Now, this ties in with the last one, doesn't it? If you feel like you're making it up,
then
this can't be right. It must be this instead.
Well, it's probably related to that, but, and then you want to make this edit. And the reality is your unconscious mind is being, to point number 2, honest.
Yeah.
Therefore, don't edit.
Don't edit. Accept it for what it is.
Right.
And my favorite is number 6. It's almost always nonlinear and off the wall. Where you end up is often not where you begin. So, for example, a guy comes in, he's got a phobia, and he starts working on that therapeutically. We're removing a phobia because he remembers that when he was a kid, he fell off a bike and it scared him. And then all of a sudden, his unconscious takes him somewhere totally different he did not expect. Oh, he's at a birthday party at 6 years old. And that's where it really installed, Buddy,
this is reminding me of when we were in Las Vegas and I worked with William Wood. And this was a session to work on psoriasis.
Right.
And I ended up with this realization that I need to be a better listener. Really weird. I'm listening now. Go ahead.
Notice I'm not saying it.
You were about, just
drifting away.
Totally. So that was just, okay, I love that list. So the unconscious mind always answers first.
It always answers honestly.
It speaks very softly. Always feels like you're making it up. You always have an urge to edit whatever just came up.
Always non-linear and off the wall. Where you end up's not where you began.
Very, very
Which brings us perfectly, Chris. We're on time here and we have a live webinar. So how about now a word from our sponsor?
Hey, Jeff, I didn't know you had a membership in this gym.
Well, I do, Alex. The problem is the ceiling is too low. It's like lifting in a bowling alley.
Jeff, ease up. This isn't a grain elevator, you know.
I know it's not. It's just that I keep hitting the ceiling fan with this 2-pound weight.
Well, back off, Arnold. The problem is those cheap free weights you're using.
What do you mean?
I mean, they're covered in ants, cockadoodle dick.
Oh, yuck, I never even noticed them. No wonder my arms are itching.
That's why I use ShizJig certified ant-proof weights. They cost more, but damn, they're worth it. And ShizJig weights weigh much less than the competitors' weights. That makes them easier to swing around.
Even in a grain elevator?
You bet, Jeff, even in a grain elevator.
Always insist on ShizJig, the world's finest ant-proof products. Okay, let's talk about the unconscious some more because, Chris, this is where I live and play and work. It's the unconscious mind. And
it's your playground.
It is my playground. But, people we work with, when we just did that 4-hour training for the Canadian Hypnosis Conference, I clarified. I said, you'll hear Chris and I say unconscious and not subconscious.
It's not because we hate the subconscious or anything like that. No, it's all about simplicity to us. So in our minds, there is conscious stuff you're aware of, so you can be aware that I'm talking right now.
Right.
Or at least that you're listening to me, because I'm probably not actually talking at this instant when you're listening. But You get the point. And then there's unconscious stuff you're not aware of. As an example, you might not be currently thinking of or aware of your heart beating.
Right. Or the feeling of your shoes wrapped around your feet. And that suddenly becomes conscious instantly.
Or the temperature on the air on the back of your neck.
Right. And so what we're saying basically is the feeling of your tongue inside your mouth.
Exactly.
And, so you don't need to do this further breaking it down into conscious, unconscious, subconscious, superconscious. No, we just go conscious is what you're currently aware of, and unconscious is what you're not aware of. And so Erickson's whole concept was the unconscious, this massive, amazing thing that contains everything you've ever learned, everything you know about yourself, everything that you've experienced in life, every conversation you've ever had, every book you've ever read, it's all there and it's all available. Which now, Chris, I'm going to give you a challenge you did not expect. First, I'm just going to ask you, is the conscious mind real? Remember that one?
Yeah, the conscious mind. Well, there's different ways of thinking about it. It certainly feels very real to me, but I'm not sure that most of the time I am in control of what my conscious mind decides to be conscious of.
That's a good point.
Right? Like right now, I'm looking at a microphone on the desk, or I hear a noise and maybe it makes me think about, I don't know, for whatever reason, it reminds me, we've got a puppy upstairs.
Right.
And I'm going to have to take it out for a walk soon, something like that.
But then there's that whole concept, for years people said maybe the unconscious doesn't actually exist.
Exactly.
You can tell it exists because everybody listening, think of your phone number right now.
You know
Where was it before you thought of it? You weren't saying it in your head. It was unconscious, out of your conscious awareness.
Right.
But there's a belief now that the conscious mind may not exist. It may just be a means of interfacing with this world, and it's a projection from the unconscious.
Exactly.
Isn't that getting weird?
Well, it does make some sense, and that's fine. It makes you feel weird. It makes me feel weird. It makes people feel weird in general.
It makes
to think about
feel weird.
The idea that we actually aren't in control at all of our conscious minds.
Right.
Our unconscious mind allows us to be aware of certain things. And even when we think we controlled it, maybe we didn't. Maybe it was our unconscious. Does it really matter?
I know. It's just a fascinating thing to think about. I know Dabney Ewan, in his wonderful book on hypnosis, he talks about, he absolutely verified that when you are under a general anesthetic, your conscious mind is suppressed, but your unconscious is still listening.
It's one of these strange things where, whether it's true or not, let's say we agree or can't agree on the idea that there is or isn't a conscious mind, is it going to affect your life? Is the answer to that question going to matter? And it makes me think back to when I was a kid and I would hear about the universe being infinite.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's just so weird, right? Because it's infinite. It never ends. Like you never get to the end. But then at some point I went, how is this going to actually affect my life?
Right. Well,
it won't, right?
The classic example was when, in one of the Sherlock Holmes stories, Watson said to him, he expressed some surprise that Holmes did not know that the Earth went around the sun. And Watson said, how could you not? He said, because in my field of endeavor, it's pointless. He said, now that I know, I shall do my best to forget it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Well, listen, buddy, here's the challenge I have for you. And this is absolutely off the top. I want your unconscious mind to generate our empowering question now.
Okay, here we go. Unconscious generation, no thought provided. What are you going to do differently today than yesterday to empower yourself to be more positive and to help other people be even more positive and build an amazing life?
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
I'm giving you 10.
It's so good that I can't remember what I just said, so I'm not going to repeat it.
I can't either, but I receive it, Chris. I receive it.
So we won't do our usual saying it twice. So there's your empowering question.
I've got to give you our closing Meta 5.
Oh, are we at that point?
We are, buddy. And look at where we are.
Amazing,
we're at the half-hour mark.
Amazing.
Our closing Meta 5.
Yeah.
I call it Don't Be Stupid.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is one I think I've told you before. A true story. I had a good friend a number of years ago who since moved. I haven't seen him in a couple of decades. And he was a really smart guy, but he sometimes made really stupid life decisions. The kind of thing where one decision can wreck everything in your life. And it's something we're all aware of, where occasionally we reach crossroads moments in our lives. And that decision at that crossroad will change the rest of our lives. we're back to the whole concept, the metaphor of pathways in front of us. And here's an example of what I mean by don't be stupid. In other words, avoid stepping out on one of those paths. This friend of mine, we'll call him Mark, not his real name. He lived up in the Orangeville, Ontario area with his wife and had a good life. His wife was a teacher, and I can't remember what he was doing at the time. I think he was in computers. And he and his wife went to another couple's house for an evening. They'd only just met this other couple, who turned out to be more, shall we say, wild than they were. And this friend of mine, Mark, if he drank too much, the evening would disappear. He'd get blackouts. Like, he should not have been much of a drinker. And he'd get sick and throw up and really ill. So this one night, they were sitting around playing the board game Trivial Pursuit, which is a Canadian invention. And then they started drinking more and more. And he was sitting on a couch next to this guy's wife. And the guy was sitting next to his wife across the table in another couch. And they started drinking more and more. And they started playing a game, Sexual Pursuit, making up questions for each other. And they were trying to think up questions. He remembers holding a hat in front of his face to quiz this girl about what question they were going to ask so the others couldn't hear it. He said, then he vaguely remembers necking with this girl behind the hat.
In front of his
wife across the room. Yeah. Then he has a blackout. And he remembers vaguely being down in the basement of this other person's house, his wife down by the furnace in the dark crying.
Oh, man.
And then it jumps fast forward. He wakes up. He's in the passenger seat of his own car in the driveway of his house. It's like 10 a.m. and he has the worst hangover in history. And he's got to go in now and face his wife. She's driven him home and just left him in the car. He let his life get out of control in that time. And the decision he made wound up ruining everything.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been episode 112 of the Brain Software Podcast. You can make sure you go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events. Check out all the stuff we're doing. Make sure you visit our website if you have not done so yet, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. Right on the homepage, you'll see a place to sign up for Mike's awesome, I said that weird, but I'll just say it again, awesome Brain Software ebook. It's really great. It's about 30 pages of awesome material. So go there,
buddy.
Check it out, grab it. It's a PDF file that you can read really quickly and learn a lot from.
And come to Toronto and study with us.
Come to Toronto and study with us. And Mike, in closing, I just want to say, often we end these podcasts after about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because people are asking for more. Literally, it's just a little more time is all we're asking for.
Because just a little more time could open closing doors.
It's true. And just a little uncertainty can bring you down.
And nobody wants to know you now.
Nobody wants to show you how. So if you're lost and on your own, you can never surrender. And if your path won't lead you home, you can never surrender.
Take it, Chris.
And when the night is cold and dark, you can see light, Mike.
'Cause no one can take away your right to fight and to never surrender.
Brilliant! Corey Hart is awesome.
Oh, well, he was.